Today we are going to see about regression testing and smoke testing. Let me tell you what is regression testing first. So regression testing is nothing but if there's any changes coming to your code, and after you have done with the changes, you just check it whether the changes have affected the other parts of your software or not. That's what they've told. It's defined as a type of software testing to confirm that the recent program or code change has not adversely affected existing feature. Suppose if a client is giving you some changes and you're doing it, after doing it, you're doing it testing. After finishing your changes, you're just doing a testing and confirming whether the changes you have recently done have not affected the other parts of the software. There is a side effect, also called refactoring. You know a topic called refactoring, right? So same kind here. And regression testing is nothing but a full or partial selection of already executed testing. Now, it doesn't mean that you are going to, in a regression testing, you are going to do all the kind of test cases you have already executed. You just select test cases which are related to your existing functionalities, and you test whether these works fine or not. Okay, so the main thing is to see whether the old code still works fine with the new changes. That's all. So why we need for regression testing? Actually, regression testing is required when there is a change in requirements and code is modified according to the requirement. As I told you already, a new feature is added as a requirement. If any defect is fixed, suppose if a client feels that there's a defect in this and you're fixing it, then again you do regression testing and make sure that the changes whatever you have done is not affected. And then next one is your performance issue fix. So again, if there's a performance issue fix, you'll try to fix some module of your software. For that, you'll do some changes in your coding. So because of that, you should make sure that it does not affect your older code. So these are the situations where you need for a regression testing. Okay. How to do regression testing? So first of all, we saw what is regression testing, and now like how to do regression testing. So regression testing is mainly needed when there is a software maintenance. A software maintenance is an activity which includes enhancements, error corrections, optimizations, and deletion of existing features. Obviously, so during enhancement, the software maintenance nothing but during your maintenance of your software. So during the maintenance of software, if there is any enhancement in your coding, you have to do, and if there is any bug or error, and then you have to correct it, and there is any optimization problem, you face it and you have to fix it. And if you feel that client feels that the existing feature does not suit for your software and he wants to delete it, if you are going to delete it. So by doing all these enhancements, error corrections, optimizations, and deletion of existing features, you should make sure after doing all these stuff whether your existing code, that is the older code, works fine or not. So these modifications, those enhancement, error corrections, optimizations, and deletion of existing feature may cause the system to work incorrectly. That's what, after doing all this, you should make sure that my older code have not repaired or have not broken. There's no any side effects in my older code because of my new code. So therefore regression testing becomes necessary, so in order to verify whether my older code is fine. So regression testing can be carried out using the following techniques. The following techniques are retest all, regression test selections, prioritization of test cases. We'll see one by one in the next slide. So what is retest all? This is one of the methods of regression testing where you are going to test all the existing test cases you have written so far for your whole software. So think of after each and every every modification, if you are going to execute and see, or you want to test for the whole test suites, test cases, suppose for a software you have 100 test cases, and after each and every small modifications of your software, if you are going to check each and every 100 test cases of your software, that is obviously going to be a time waste and it will be very expensive. You need more number of resources. It requires huge amount as well resources. So retesting all, like people say like it's not a preferable one. So what is the next thing? So in order to overcome this, you are going for a regression test selections and then prioritization of test cases. So what is regression test selections? So instead of re-executing the entire test suite, it is better to select part of the test suite to run. So you just select a best part. What are those best parts? So suppose if a modification has been done for a particular module, you can take a test cases for that particular module alone and then you can run that. Okay, so that is regression test selection. Or test cases selected can be characterized as reusable test case and then absolute test case. So what is reusable test case? Reusable test case, suppose if you're selecting few test cases, those can be used in your succeeding regression cycle. That is in the forthcoming regression cycles also you can use the same test cases. Whereas absolute test cases you cannot reuse it. So in your forthcoming testing of your regression, you cannot reuse it. So that is your reusable test cases and absolute test cases, and these are all the two types of regression test selection. And now what is prioritization of test cases? So actually this prioritization, from the word itself you can understand what is prioritize. Obviously prioritize is like you have to choose which is more important. Okay, so the prioritize the test case depend upon business impact, critical and frequently used functionalities. So how you actually prefer it? The thing is like usually you prefer the test cases based upon which module you frequently use, or which is a core important part of my software, which is going to have a core important business impact on my software. There is being business impact for my software, and then which is a very critical module for my software. So if something has to be done, some changes are done in that particular part, and then you choose a prioritization of test case depend upon those three: business impact, critical and frequently used functionalities. So that's it called prioritization of test cases. That is selection of test cases based on priority will greatly reduce the regression test suite. Okay, selecting test cases for regression testing. How will you select test cases for regression testing? Suppose I'll give a small example first of all. What is regression testing? Suppose if you are giving a suit to a tailor to stitch according to your measurements. So he's saying like, ma'am, you can come after 1 week. And after 1 week, you're calling him and then he's saying like, your suit is ready. So you're going to the shop. Fine. So once you're going to get the suit from him, mostly 90% to 95% of the people, they don't just take the suit and come to the home. They take the suit, they ask the tailor where is the trial room, they go to the trial room, they wear it and then see whether the product fit him or her. So now what you'll do? Fine. You're doing a simple testing whether the product fit to me or not. Okay, it fits me or not. So fine. So you're wearing it. Once it's perfectly fit, fine. Yes, if you feel that your hand is very loose, or your hip size is very loose, or it's very tight, so what do you do now? You go to the shop and you say like, this product is not according to my requirement, according to my functionalities. So could you please alter it? Can you do some enhancement? Can you do some modifications? Something like that. Or if you feel that my sleeve is very short, I don't want a very short sleeve, could you please make it as a elbow sleeve? So some kind of enhancement or modifications you're giving according to your requirements and functionalities. So what he do, most of them will say like, if it's a very small modification, he'll say like, okay ma'am, fine, you stay here and then get it, I'll do it now itself, I can get it and go. And then few will say, ma'am, it'll take time, so you better go home, I'll call you and then you can come and do it. So if it's going to be like, he say like, ma'am, please stay, you can get it, and then what you'll do, you'll wait and then you get the suit from him, again you go to the trial room and then see whether the product fits you or not. Yes, so this point is called regression testing. Or if you're going home and if you're coming after 2 days, you're not going to get the suit and then going to go home. If you have asked for any modifications, you go to the trial room, you check whether the product is according to your requirement or not. Here comes, this point is actually called regression testing. You are checking whether you have not spoiled your dress, whether you have enhanced or altered or modified your dress properly. You're checking whether your dress is fine. My older stitching, you have not spoiled your requirement. Maybe some people feel that the earlier stitching was better than now. So you're just cross-verifying whether the stitching is fine, whether you have not spoiled the older stitching, whether you have enhanced. So this, I can say as a regression testing, a real-time example where like everyone can understand. And then selecting test case for regression testing. So So what are all the test cases you select for regression testing? The first one I can say test cases which have frequent defects. So whenever while testing you will feel that this part have frequent defects in your software. So those test cases will be selected for a regression testing when some modification has been done. Then is your functionalities which are more visible to the users. So few functionalities will be more visible to the users. So you put more concentration on that so that you should not have any errors into it, because that is going to be the very core functionality which is very visible, which is going to be very visible to the user. Next one is test case which verify core features of the product. Some test cases are going to check for the very core feature of the product. Then obviously you have to check that also once again. And then test cases of functionalities which have undergone more and recent changes. If you feel that one modules have gone for frequent and many modifications in your software, then you tested whether there is any problem in that. And then all integration test cases, because when you have done some modifications and then during integration, that should not throw an error. There should not be any compatibility error or some errors. And then all complex test cases. So a few test cases you feel that these are all complex test cases, maybe a core part of the test cases, as I told you already. So those things will be selected. And then boundary value test cases. So boundary value, it should not go beyond the output or input. You should not go beyond a particular test case. So that is your boundary value test case. A sample of successful test case. You feel that whenever you test a module, these test cases always reports you pass. So you check it that once again, because this time also is it giving you a pass result. And then a sample of failure test cases. Many times you would have felt that these test cases are returning you that is error, defect. So you also choose that whether this time is it giving you a positive answer, or a positive saying like there's no any defect. And then fine, we are coming to the final slide, that is difference between retesting and regression testing. What is retesting and what is regression testing? I told you regression testing means it tests your software application when there is any changes of done in the module to ensure the new code does not affect my older code. That is, there is no any side effects in my older code because of this new code. And then what is this retesting? Retesting means just testing the functionality, just fixing the code, just fixing if there is any performance issue or fixing if there is any bug. That's all. So that is called retesting. So retesting is like when there is a bug, you just fix it. And then when the defects are done, you just make sure that the defects are not need to be reopened. You just close the defect. If fixed, you just closed it. You never again go for another testing when the defect is closed. That is called retesting. Okay. And then regression testing, when a defect is closed, you check it again whether it's showing any error or it is affecting my older code or not. Fine. Thank you. So let's see smoke testing in the other video. Thank you so much.